Holy smokes! In this video, I'm going to build this custom leg vise and retrofit it to my small workbench. I'm going to walk through the build process, the mechanism that keeps the jaws parallel, and a few problems I ran into along the way, including what happened in that opening clip. All right, this is my bench. It is actually not a very good bench at all. The base was here in this shed before I moved all my tools and stuff in here. It had a Formica top, which I tore off and made this laminated pine top for it, which did help quite a bit. That makes it a lot nicer. But the one thing I do need for this bench is a vise. So what I'm thinking is a leg vise that I want to add to this. I bought some hardware for that. I just need to adapt it. So I'm gonna try to do that in this video. So let me show you. Why don't we come down here and let me show you. All right, here's what we got going on. Just some standard 2x4s. Looks like someone painted them at one point. I added these bracing on the sides here, and then there's some cross bracing inside to help stiffen it up. The one thing I want to add is that leg vise, and I'm thinking that will go right here. I purchased this screw a little while ago, but I think that will fit somewhere in here. And then the next thing I got to figure out is how to support the bottom, because the leg vise comes all the way down the leg, and then if the screws here and you tighten and there's nothing supporting the bottom, either have a piece in here with holes in it and then you position it. The thing I don't like about that is you have to constantly move the pin. I've seen a wedge where you have some wedge on the bottom, but then that's going to get in the way all the time, I feel like. I do like Benchmade has the it's like a crisscross triangulated 4-bar linkage type thing. I do really like that, so I think I'm going to try to fabricate something along those lines for the vise. The next thing I gotta do is find a piece of wood. I think I have a piece of ash that I can use. Remember, it's somewhere around 6 or 7 inches wide, and hopefully it's long enough. I think we'll try to use that. So one of the key points with the leg vise is that the leg is flush to the front of the bench. So taking this scrap piece of wood, you can see if I just mount a piece to the front of this existing leg, it would be flush. But I'm worried about the thickness and the strength of the wood in that position. If I laminate a few pieces together in this orientation, I can mount it up behind the existing bench and attach it to the existing leg that way. That'll really allow me to take good advantage of the grain orientation and the extra strength that I'm going to get by doing that. I've actually never seen this happen before, but there was so much tension in this 2x8 and the board just cracked right there. I think I would try to finish cutting the rest of it and then figuring out what to do. And these are going to be for the laminated leg. So these are the 3 boards. They're just so heavy. I think they're just wet still. I do not think they're going to be a good choice for the leg. They feel wet. I think I'm going to give up on the yellow pine for the legs. It was much too wet and a lot of internal stresses. I was cutting it. It was warping and all that. So I think just to make things a lot easier on myself, I'm going to go with some poplar that I picked up. Poplar's not going to be quite as strong. But I'm going to laminate these 7 pieces together, and I think it'll be more than strong enough for my situation in this vise here. So I think the yellow or the poplar is going to be great, and let's get to gluing this up. Here's the attic of the shop. This makes a nice storage area. I got a bunch of junk that way, but I got my hardwood stored up here. Makes it nice. I don't have to store it down in the shop. Piece of maple, walnut, some cherry. Here's a piece of oak. Here's that piece of ash I was talking about. Let's see. Oh, it looks like it might be wide enough. Definitely thick enough, I think. 2 inches, it looks like. Oh yeah, this might work. Let's take this down and check it out. Okay, here we go. Let's see, I think that's gonna be the right size. Definitely the good thickness. We're at 7 3/4. That's decent. Okay, now I just gotta figure out how to make this thing. I have the leg nearly complete. I got all the pockets routed out and the holes drilled. Now I got to work on attaching some of the hardware. And this is what I'm calling the reaction nut. And it racks all the clamping forces from the vise and from the screw down into the leg. So it attaches on the back, and I'm going to attach it with these number 12 screws. So next I got to just drill some holes and get this attached. Then I can work on getting this leg on the bench. Got the leg here in place, got a couple clamps holding it in the right position. It's nice and flush to the front of the bench and square to the top. And that's important to make sure the vise works correctly. Now I'm just need to attach it to the bench, and what I'm going to do is just add some screws along the side of this leg and tie the two together that way. That, along with a couple at the top, I think it's going to be plenty strong enough. I removed some cross bracing here, which I'll reinstall, and I think that's going to be plenty strong enough. The chop could also be referred to as the vise jaw. On a leg vise, it's the moving jaw of the vise. I actually didn't know the chop was called a chop until I started looking into it. From what I found, the name likely comes from Old English, meaning a chunk or slab cut from a larger piece of wood. And that's basically what the chop is, a big fancy chunk of wood. I'm using the shaper origin to pattern cut the shape of the chop. I could have made a template out of hardboard or something similar and then used a router with a pattern bit to do the same thing. That's one of the cool things about woodworking. There's almost always more than one way to get there. The tools just change how you get it done. Since I have this shaper origin, I am not going to pass up an opportunity to take advantage of its precision and ease of use. My problem is that I forgot to drill the cross brace hole before I cut the curve on the chop. So that the sides were parallel, and then I would have been able to easily put this in the drill press and drill that hole. Now I gotta contend with this thing tipping like this. So what I thought I would do is clamp the chop to this fence, or this is actually my jig I made for the shape or origin, but if I could clamp it to here and then bring this whole clamped assembly over to the drill press, I should be able to drill that hole perpendicular. But I think with a few clamps, it should be good to get that drilled. I'll just have to take it easy when I'm drilling that. This is the crossbar brace that I actually machined from just bar stock. Had enough of it and I was able to machine the two of these exactly to the same length and hole positions. Both of them are identical. One mounts to the leg and then the other one, this one, will mount to the chop. So they mount at the top up here with a pin, and that goes through the chop and attaches here. So I have a nice loose fit, not with minimizing any extra slop. And then there's the two crossbar braces will attach at the center at this center point, and that creates a 4-bar linkage to keep the jaw running parallel. So when I machined these, I kept these hole tolerances as tight as I could to maintain a loose sliding fit, but not so tight that it would cause any binding, and that was to minimize any slop in the mechanism to keep it running as parallel as possible. So then I 3D printed just a little spacer here, and then I'll have a nylon washer between the crossbar brace and the wood chop. I 3D printed this model of the leg vise mechanism, and I built this to try to really understand the mechanism before I went ahead and built it. The gray would be the bench, the workbench, and then the yellow is the chop. And this is like a section view. Each cross brace is either pinned to the chop or pinned to the leg. And then the cross braces are tied together in the middle. With this mechanism, you're essentially always have an infinite number of positions where the vise will be parallel. So by creating this model, I was able to understand it better, but also be able to play with some of the parameters to understand how it works. So these red represent the metal shims that the cross braces ride on. In my design and probably any other cross brace leg vise design, those pieces are metal. But if you adjust the shim thickness, say I want a thicker shim, did you see how it canted the chop out a little bit? You can see it here. So by adjusting these shim thicknesses, you can adjust the angle of the chop. All right, I got the chop pretty much done. Everything's installed. I think the last thing to do is tie these two together with this pin. There's a connection pin for the cross braces, and then I'll install the screw. Hopefully I can get this. Try not to pinch my fingers. There we go. The handle starts out as a 1 1/8 inch dowel, but I needed to bring that diameter down just a little bit to get it to fit into the vise screw. So I built this simple jig for the table saw to bring that diameter down accurately and evenly. It's a small adjustment, but getting that fit just right makes a big difference in how it feels on the vise. So I'm just attaching with these through bolts, 1/4 inch 20 screws that will attach through the chop, and then secure on the backside with these flange nuts. Awesome. Holds nice. Just a little turn, that thing's locked on there. Hey, thanks for taking the time to follow along. If you use a leg vise in your shop or a different style vise, I'd love to hear about it. Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.